Week 2, everybody. Week 2. Welcome to the Blitz Zone. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Rosen, and I'm coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. And with me tonight, my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Corey Valdez. Thank you, Corey, so much for joining me tonight.
Oh, thank you, Eric, for the great introduction. Awesome guy. Couldn't say nothing bad about this guy. Totally A+.
I appreciate that. And tonight we have so much to get into, but let's look at week 1 this week. What a crazy first week of the 2018 NFL season. I mean, who would have thought we'd see all 7 new head coaches? Not one of them could get a victory.
I was actually pulling for the Raiders. That was the one I actually was picking. That was going to be the first rookie head coach. I thought Chucky was going to pull it, but couldn't get it done. It was tough.
And what was crazy about that game was they had a 13-10 lead going into the half, and then afterwards the Rams readjusted, and Goff pulled off some major throws that he had, and Todd Gurley had a couple of great plays. And my favorite was the 50-yard pick six by the newly acquired Marcus Peters. I think that pickup right there was probably genius on Snead's part.
And it's also going to hurt the Raiders. I mean, getting rid of Khalil Mack, that's such a big addition. There's nobody really who has who could actually step into those shoes and give the pressure that man did. Like, I think that's going to hurt them for years to come.
And the reason why that even happened, because, John Gruden, he's a prideful person. He doesn't like anybody questioning his authority, which no coach likes whatsoever. Yeah. But Mack wanted to get paid, and he should get paid for the work that he's produced for the Raiders the last few years. And you know what? The only team that did it was the Bears, and they paid a steep price. On top of the money, 2 first-rounders.
Yes, that's huge. But he's already a polished player. You don't have to sit there and actually draft him and wonder, okay, what's he going to be? He's ready. He's ready to go right now. There's no type of, is there a learning period or a learning curve? The guy's doing damage right off the gate.
Speaking of the damage, this past Sunday night when they visited the Packers in Cheesehead Land.
Oh, yes.
What a crazy first half that was, including Aaron Rodgers getting hurt, I think, because of Mack.
Yes.
And then the fact that you saw him go on the front part of the cart, I knew right there that Rodgers was coming back. Because typically, if a person is on the cart and they're on the back part, their feet are laying out, you know that's pretty much it. They're done for the year. Or they're done for some weeks. He was on the front part of the cart. It was probably a mild sprain at that point. He came in with a vengeance, including the 75-yard game-winning touchdown to Randall Cobb.
I couldn't even believe that. The man is a true warrior, hard-nosed, does not play around. When he came back in the game, I was like, wow, he must have said something to the coach, like, put me in, coach. There's no way you're getting me out of this. Because most head coaches don't want to take a chance of losing your franchise player with like a mild injury and turning it into 10 times worse. But that man pulled off magic that night. I couldn't believe the Bears didn't run the clock out and just try to hold them off. But that man is an animal.
And that's why he got the contract that he got. He's worth every penny. Every penny. And you know what's what I love about the Packers, the only team that the public can actually buy stock into. No other team in the league can do that.
I love that. The whole city of Wisconsin owns the Packers. No other team has that. Yep. You got the hometown fans who own it, and it's actually, one out of like the whole United States that actually does that.
Exactly.
That's something exciting over there in Green Bay.
You can fit that entire town into Arlington. That's the crazy part. You can fit that entire population of Green Bay into the Cowboys Stadium, and that's how many people. And what I liked about this past week, though, Matt Nagy, though, I loved some of the plays that they had in the first half. Trey Burton was a great pickup for Chicago.
Yes.
Of course, if you all remember, that was the guy who brought out the Philly special in Super Bowl 52 with the touchdown to Foles. And he was a former QB from Florida, too, which is something right there. So he had that ability to make plays like that. And I liked getting Taylor Gabriel. He's a good traditional slot receiver to have. And what was really frightening was Devonta Freeman got hurt in that game. This past week against Philadelphia.
That was a big blow to their offense. They definitely need him.
I know. And not just that, but what about Keanu Neal and Deion Jones? That could really be devastating for the Falcons defense going forward.
Yes. No, I didn't see much of that game, but I couldn't believe that the other things that were going on. I was actually wanting to talk about the Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, yes.
That's like big. Le'Veon Bell, like you sit out and now you have Connors running the rock, getting over 100 yards and showing that he can do it. It puts actually the Pittsburgh in more of a bargaining position going, we'll move forward from you. I think Mr. Bell was actually planning on, okay, they're going to struggle, have a problem with running their offense. Maybe he'll get 40, 50 yards, and they'll be begging me to come back. By him having an explosive first week, now it makes things interesting because he might actually be traded away because he doesn't want the franchise tag. And same thing, the man's 26 years old. He wants to get paid. And that's the new thing. Running backs, they don't get probably half of what quarterbacks get.
Or left tackles.
Yes.
You know, they're the most woefully underpaid position in football, and yet Bell he has a special skill set. He can bring out two defenders on him.
Yes.
He can catch out of the backfield.
Catch out of the backfield. That's tremendous.
He's a matchup nightmare for any defensive coordinator to have to plan against. And it's true, he wants to get paid. And if there's any team next year, I'm saying,
the Jets.
I'm just a little hint out there, green and white. Come on, Le'Veon. But you know what? I'm kind of happy with Isaiah right now. I think he's
Cromwell definitely did a phenomenal job. A lot of people were overlooking him. He might be a sleeper, and people who are doing fantasy football, pick him up. He's going to get you some yards. The line definitely looked pretty good in getting that a pass and run protection.
All right. So you know what? Let's get into some Week 1 recap. All right.
All right.
Let's start with, we were mentioning Chicago in Green Bay, Sunday Night Football, Lambeau Field. Khalil Mack making his Bears debut, and what a debut he had, considering the injury to Aaron Rodgers. But then you bring out DeShone Kizer. Yeah, remember that guy, 22 interceptions he had last year?
I thought it was 21, but you might be right with 22. He had a lot of picks.
He had more picks than touchdowns, and that is saying something right there. For a guy that came out of who had a good career at Notre Dame, was known for some memorable games there, and yet he comes over to Cleveland, has a bomb, gets traded to Green Bay. I don't know what Green Bay was thinking.
A lot of quarterbacks that go to Cleveland have a bomb. Usually when the Cleveland drafts somebody as a high quarterback, they never fix that offensive line. Cleveland has had, 14 quarterbacks in the last, 12 years?
20.
It's horrible.
Since they came back to the league, right now, Tyrod Taylor, he makes it 29 in the graveyard. And we're talking about, Brady Quinn.
Yeah, Brady Quinn, Tib Couch. I like Johnny Football, but he couldn't keep it together. Kid liked to party too much. He had to grow up and realize he was in the big leagues, and he ruined everything for himself.
Well, he's now singing in Canada at the moment.
Yeah, CFL.
You ever see the field in the Canadian Football League? How big?
Yeah, it looks bigger.
It's 18 inches, width-wise. If you watch the games. Yeah. So anybody in the NFL can probably make those.
Yeah, but the problem with that is you're also dealing with people that are out to make a name. They want to be the guy who just wrapped up Johnny Football and blasted him. So he's got to defend himself.
Right. And Ricky Williams at one point actually played in the Canadian Football League. He played for the Argonauts, which are one of the big names in the Canadian Football League. But getting back to this game in particular, why did Green Bay come back in this game? Besides Aaron Rodgers, what adjustments did you think Green Bay made?
Aaron Rodgers just coming back, seeing the field. He's very good at reading a defense. He probably noticed that a lot of the times when they were bringing a blitz, he was making a little bit of an audible. He was actually calling it. The man's good. I think it was basically the offense keeping the defense on the field longer. He was stretching out plays. The defense looked tired. Towards the end of the fourth quarter, when he came back, they looked tired, and it was I think overwhelming. Yeah, that's a good word to use. They looked a little overwhelmed towards the end, and I guess almost oh no, not this again, because they have lost many fourth quarter battles with Aaron Rodgers. Wow, almost forgot his name for a half a second. That guy's great.
I think what also killed Chicago too was there was a wide open play Trubisky missed out on Trey Burton. That was probably key right there as well. And the fact that the Chicago defense forgot to play defense in the second half. They were playing a lot of cover 2 prevent instead of just...
Got to get them in your face, because that's the only thing that's going to stop them. If you just sit back, when you have the top elite quarterbacks, you sit back, they're going to pick you apart.
Exactly.
You give them 3 seconds or more, it's like a field day for them. Feast and famine. You put pressure in their face, I'm telling you, even the best, they hate it when there's a defensive tackle pulling on their jersey.
And Khalil Mack, had like I said, great performance. He had a few sacks. He had the pick six.
Yes.
And overall, they still ended up losing 24-23. But I do like the future for Matt Nagy in Chicago. I like what he brought, that Chiefs-style offense to this team. The weapons they picked up in the offseason. He's got people to throw to. Trubisky could have the same type of second year that Goff had with the Rams. It's almost on that parallel. The running game, though, with Jordan Howard and Tarek Cohen, who is a great change of pace back. They really make a great tandem together.
Nice tandem, 1-2 punch.
And this, I think, for Green Bay, though, this year, Aaron Rodgers could be the MVP this year.
It's a little still too early to call, but he just shows you why you pay him top dollar. The man has just gusto. He has no problem going out there and proving he's one of the best. Hey, Rodgers, discount double check.
Discount double check. I love that. Rodgers! You ever see that commercial with
Oh, yeah, I love it.
Now the Jets visiting the Motor City, and they gave them a Motor City beatdown. In the beginning, of course, Aaron Donald made the typical rookie mistake, getting the ball, throwing it across the middle. Quandre Diggs picked up on it, 37-yard pick, 6 to the right side of the field. But afterwards, he was poised, he was composed, and his team really made some big interceptions, really got in Stafford's face. The pressure was there, which the Jets lacked last year.
This was the first time where I can actually say where I watched the whole game and saw it cover to cover. They played from the start of the whistle to the end of the whistle. They gave you the full game. For some reason, in the past, I've seen the Jets give up by like the third quarter, and you see it in their faces when they're coming off the field. But once they started lighting up Detroit, it seemed like they were hungry. They were just going out there. They wanted more. You love that from your team. When you got a hometown team and they're just ripping through the Detroit Lions, it's like, yes, this is what we want.
And what was great, all three phases worked. You saw Andre Roberts scoring on special teams on that punt return. You saw the defense making 5 interceptions, 4 of which were attributed to Matthew Stafford. In fact, Stafford was just an interception shy of tying his career high, which is really something. And Darnold being the youngest player in the NFL-AFL merger to start at 21 years of age. That's a lot of pressure for a 21-year-old to have on his shoulders, to be the face of the franchise. And yet, after that mistake, he made some good throws. My favorite was the one he threw to Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
That 47.
Robbie Anderson took off, too. That guy's got speed. He's got jets. I think it was, I'm not going to lie, I was one of the naysayers at the beginning of the season when they traded away Teddy Bridgewater. I was like, what are you doing? At least start Teddy for 3 or 4 games, ease Sam Darnold in there, but the kid looked good. The kid looked confident. Even when he threw the pick, he didn't look like he was rattled. You know, sometimes when you get that rookie quarterback, he's all, boom, pick 6, and then when he's walking, you see his head down. He looks, oh, no, what's going on? And he looks like he's breaking down. I don't know. You looked at Sam Darnold. He was looking forward like, all right, let me get back in there. And like they said, hey, Brett Favre, Hall of Famer, definitely getting the coat. He threw his first pass for a pick, too. So, hey.
Anything's possible.
Anything is possible.
And he not only that, what was crazy about, he set a franchise record for the most points on the road, at 48 with the Jets this week.
Yes.
And on top of all that, I'm hearing a lot of rumblings in the Detroit locker room. There's a lot of discontent with Matt Patricia, the new head coach. A lot of people don't like the serious style that he's bringing, the Belichicking style.
He's bringing the Belichick to Detroit, and a lot of these people aren't used to it. They're gonna be strong, and the Belichick teams are always gonna be well coached up. He's gonna work you, he's gonna push you hard, and he's gonna get the most out of every player. I don't know. For me, that sounds like a winning formula. You just gotta buy in. But if you don't get a few of the top veterans to buy into that in your system, you're gonna have turmoil and just problems all year long in the locker room. So you need to nip that in the bud. You have to basically sit down some of the team captains and get them to buy into your system that we will work hard and we will fight to the very end.
But we've seen this play out, unfortunately, with Josh McDaniels and stint with Denver. We've seen this with Eric Mangini with the Jets, trying to bring that style, and it hasn't worked. I'm hoping that it turns around for Matt Patricia, because he really is a good defensive guru, as we saw in the years that he's with the Patriots. And that's why, for so many years, we've seen his name come up as a potential head coach. And now that he's got a job in a major market for a team that hasn't won a playoff game since '93,
Barry. Barry Sanders.
This is really
a long time.
Long time. In fact, they haven't won a division title since the NFL or NFC Central division, and that's going
way back. That's before my time, sir.
Now to the Rams, the Raiders, as we mentioned, 13-10. Gruden's Grinders didn't grind, unfortunately, in the second half. They got outscored 23-0. They lost 33-13.
That was pressure.
And Goff just, he showed why he's still, the Rams could potentially go to the Super Bowl this year with that performance.
Yes.
And I loved, what do you think about Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald together in that defensive front?
That's pure havoc because it's when you're sliding protection, you got two Pro Bowlers. You slide one, the other one's going to be one-on-one, and it's going to be an animal. And sometimes even when you double up someone like Dominic Suh, he's like a grenade. He just blows up the middle interior of the line. If you're running through in between the tackles, you might start having problems. So you start doing sweeps and outside runs. I'm telling you, sometimes you can't even plan for that because then you're going to have the tight end stay in for chip block for extra protection. Then you're going to have to put the running back. Gurley, instead of him running out routes, he's sitting there doing the spy protection of who's cracking the line and who he has to pick up. So it causes a lot of problems for teams. All right, what are we going to do? This defensive line is ferocious with the front four. Then it also leaves the linebackers where they're dropping into coverage. You got so many guys dropping in coverage. If you have only 3 options out there, they might even be doubled up all around.
And you got not only just with those two, you got Michael Brockers you got to deal with as well. Who's a nasty interior guy when you need him to be. And then you got Peters and Talib, who I think are
the
great.
Best corners right now. That defense going to be a problem even for the most potent offenses in the NFL right now.
And you have one of the best teachers there is in Wade Phillips.
Yeah.
So, and you saw what he did with the Houston Texans, even with the Dallas Cowboys.
He even won a championship with them.
So right there, they have the perfect formula in place to do something special. Speaking of which, the Denver Broncos, they bring in Case Keenum sort of as a bridge, but yet last year he had 22 touchdowns to 5 interceptions for the Vikings. They were one game shy of getting to the promised land in their own stadium, unfortunately losing to the Super Bowl champs Eagles. And Von Miller in this game right here had a great performance. 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a recovery. It was really, we saw the Von Miller of all, but I loved the newly acquired Bradley Chubb.
Definitely doing damage. Von Miller always a force to be reckoned with, another Pro Bowler that even if you put 1 or even sometimes 2, have somebody extra in blocking for him. The great ones, they always find their way through. They always fight, claw, scratch, and next thing you know it, you could keep them contained for 2 quarters. Oh, look, Von Miller hasn't done anything all game. Next thing you know it, 2 straight plays, you could just blow through like a grenade, and there's nothing your quarterback can do but cringe and hope he doesn't lose the ball.
And it's not even just him that you have, but altogether, that defense had a great performance. They really confused Russell Wilson, getting to him 6 times on the day, forcing a few fumbles as well, forcing him to throw 2 interceptions too on the day. It was like the Seattle team is a shell of its former self. They don't have any more. There's no more.
No more Legion of Boom. The Legion of Boom used to be what they would rely on. Russell Wilson didn't have to do everything. Just control, clock management, make smart short passes, smart runs. Okay, it's 4th down, we'll punt it. Our defense will hold them or even get the ball back. Now they're all gone. They're all disbanded. I believe Earl Thomas just came back.
Yeah, after holding out.
But that secondary was probably the best in the past 3 or 4 years.
They used to, I think it was 3 years in a row, they were leading the league in points given up per game. I remember they used to give up 15 points or less, and now this team gave up 27 in the first week alone.
Yes.
There are some strides, though, this week. KJ Wright could be coming back this week, which they need him badly to go with Bobby Wagner. They have some promising players, but I really liked Will Dissly, the new tight end that they have to replace Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham. Yeah, he definitely lit it up for the fantasy owners right there. And I also like the fact that in that West, it's no longer just Seattle as a lock. Now you got the Cardinals who could spread it around, and hey, let's see what Jimmy Garoppolo could do by week 6 or 7.
If he can have a better game and all that, because last week was the first time we lost, but we'll get into that in a bit. Speaking of the by the way, they lost that game 27-24, Seattle, to the Broncos.
Yes.
The Redskins, of course, come in. Alex Smith, newly acquired. People, thought when they got rid of him that he was over the hill, that it was over for him. But he found a new lease on life in the nation's capital, and he has some good players to throw to. And the ageless, I would rather say, AP.
Oh, I called it. I was even telling my friend Matt White, don't count him out.
Aging
AP
Matt White.
running with a chip on his shoulder. Definitely somebody that could probably get you about 800 to 1,000 yards. I'm just worried about him getting the grind week after week. I think he'll start off hot. The only problem is once you hit 33, 34, 35, the running backs, the beating and the toll on their body starts to slow them up by the halfway point.
He was on 2 teams last year. He started out with New Orleans, but when they got to Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, they said, see ya. And he went to Arizona to replace David Johnson, who had the fracture injury last year and didn't play every game. And yet AP was not having it there. But he goes to a Redskins team that has a really good offensive line. And Brandon Scherf and Trent Williams, 2 Pro Bowlers right there. On top of which, with Alex Smith, he's got a good arm. He's a proven quarterback in the huddle. And overall, I think the weapons are there.
Yeah, I remember Alex Smith when he was in San Francisco. He lost his job to Kaepernick, and he was disgruntled. They traded him away to Kansas City. He took it, reinvented himself, turned around, and made something great in Kansas City. I think he has the tools to do it again in Washington, reinvent himself, do some damage in Washington, and let people know, hey, I can still bowl.
And he threw a big touchdown pass to Thompson. In fact, in the first half, he was 7-7 on one drive.
That's awesome.
And they ended up winning 24-6. And Sam Bradford is not your starting quarterback for Arizona. Put my last name, Josh Rosen. Please put my cousin in.
Nice.
Even though he's not really my cousin, but I always like to say that. Please put him in for God's sake, because honestly, I can't take any more of seeing Sam Bradford in that.
They're probably just trying to ease him in. Sometimes you just don't want to rush the rookie. You don't want him to get blasted right away. You got defenses that are going to try to make the name for themselves and just start sending the pressure in the house.
Maybe not.
But hey,
this week.
sometimes you got to learn by fire. Just throw them in there. Sometimes you either melt or you stay hard.
Speaking of melting, the Dallas Cowboys unfortunately melted down, losing 16-8 to the Carolina Panthers. They had a chance at the Ezekiel Elliott did get a 4-yard touchdown when they were down 16-0. They got the 2-point conversion from Prescott.
Yes. With
one opportunity left in the game, unfortunately, Mario Addison stripped the ball out of Dak Prescott's hand. Captain Munnerlyn, which I can't believe I'm uttering that name, Captain Munnerlyn. I don't know why you were named captain, but anyway, he recovers the ball with about a minute 23, seals the game for Carolina. My prayers and thoughts are out to the people in Carolina that are going through Hurricane Florence right now. I hope that the good people in that state or in the Carolinas in general are well taken care of after this, and that the damage is not as extensive and all that.
My prayers go out to everybody in North Carolina, all my friends in Camp Lejeune Marine Corps. Stay safe, soldiers.
Hoorah.
But I also like Cole Beasley showing that the Dallas Cowboys have moved on from Dez Bryant. He made his catches, got himself some yards, and he got himself a touchdown. How many yards did he have? Like 70?
Yeah, and while he was getting yards, Dez was opening his Twitter mouth, saying something about the team, about, hey, New England or yes.
I try not to listen to the Twitter feeds. Usually it's always something negative. Right now, just Dez, good luck in picking up somewhere. If not, it looks like the Cowboys have definitely moved on from you.
Oh, without a doubt. I think they've had enough of his talking, and he wasn't productive last year too. It
made it so easy to walk away. Once, like, if you're getting 10 catches, 140 yards, 2 touches a game, believe me, they'll take anything you want to give them. But once you start slipping in production and you also start becoming a cancer of the team in the locker room, they have no problem walking away. You got to do what's best for the team.
Exactly. And Carolina had 6 sacks in that game, but that's really an indictment right now. I wouldn't say indictment, but it's really a fault of the offensive line, what's going on with the offensive line. I feel bad for Travis Frederick, who's going through Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is an autoimmune deficiency disease.
I did not know that.
And that really messes with your fingers, and there's a lot of different symptoms that's hard for me to describe, but let's put it this way. He's not able to be at 100% with being a center, because that's the guy who runs with the quarterback's cadences, snaps the ball to the quarterback, and is always in sync to protect him from whatever DT comes his way. Wow. And he's not able to do that effectively like we've seen in the past. And there have been multiple injuries for Zach Martin and Tyson as well. So it's not, the offensive line is not the same as it has
used to be.
Exactly, and that's what's happening with Dallas's time. But Carolina defense is on top as always. And
yes, they're always one of the top 5 defense. They usually run good. Ron Rivera usually keeps them fully educated on what to do and what not to do.
Why not? We're learning from one of the best.
Yep.
Kansas City, L.A. All right. Tyreek Hill, with not even 2 minutes in the game, picks up a 91-yard punt return touchdown after the first 3 and out for the Chargers, and they go on to beat the Chargers 38-28. Patrick Mahomes, the cannon of an arm, my God,
yes.
I've never seen anything like that in my life.
That was like a rocket. It was a bunch of passes that were definitely humming. It reminded me of good old Brett Favre back in like the late 90s in Green Bay. That man used to put some stank on that ball. Thing used to fly.
But you got to love Tyreek Hill, his ability to catch the ball and make
maneuvers.
Like, who does he sort of remind you of, Tyreek Hill, in a sense?
Just very slippery, very fast, making those quick one-step moves. There's a lot of them. My favorite used to be Dante Hall. Oof. Remember how he used to just make you like, you thought you had him hemmed up, you'd have 2 guys, like one in the front, one on the side, and then he'd make like a stab, and then he's coming back, and this guy's running into him, and he's coming around. I used to love those.
Yeah, players like that, the elusive kind and all that, that can just make jumbling. Even at times, Odell can make sort of catches like that as well.
Yeah. Odell makes phenomenal catches. Those hands, him and Jarvis Landry are probably the best I ever see with those like one-handers. Oh. I can never do half the stuff those guys do with a ball.
My favorite all-time, though, Odell, is the game against Dallas, Derek Carr, and the
behind-the-back grab. That was, oof. I'm a big Giant fan, so I love that every second of it.
Of course you are a Giant fan.
Oh, yes.
And Hill, though, but you're also a big fantasy football fan, and you get some major points. You really dominate your leagues. And Hill dominated with 169.7 receptions. And for the LA Chargers, last year they started with a loss, and yet they were 0-4 last year, won 9 of their final 12,
yes.
One game shy. So could it be the same thing again?
No.
I hope not, because I love Melvin Gordon, but Joey Boss not being there to be with Melvin Ingram, that hurts
their whole offense.
Yeah, their defense for sure.
Yes.
And the Tennessee Titans Dolphins, the longest game in recorded history, 7 hours, 2 lightning delays. At the end of the day, though, the injuries are piling up for the Titans. Jack Conklin not being there since the offseason surgery in January. Taylor Lewan with a concussion. Yeah. Delane Walker's ankle injury, done for the year.
Everybody dropped him in fantasy. That was horrible.
It was hard to see him go through that. And then Marcus Mariota with the elbow injury, he's still sort of questionable this coming week. But
like Ryan Tannehill coming back from the major injury and slinging the ball, showing us, hey, I'm still here. I was wondering if those injuries were going to start slowing him up, if he was going to have a little problem in the pocket, but he looked like he was moving pretty good.
I love the 75-yard play he threw to Kenny Stills. Kenny Stills really had a great game performance. And then Jakeem Grant in the second half, that 102 kickoff return touchdown, pretty much that was the game changer right there. And Titans end up losing, Dolphins win, and
something like that is like a game changer. Like it changes the whole outlook of the team. Everybody perks up. Everybody's not sitting down anymore. Everybody's high-fiving. When you do something like that, a 102-yard kick, boom. You guys are like, we got the momentum. Let's put it to them. And sometimes when you put the screws in, the coffin is done.
Speaking of another 27-20 game, the New England Patriots starting their season at Gillette Stadium with the visiting Houston Texans. The Texans in the past have always been able to get close, but yet no cigar, as we've seen. And Deshaun Watson, who last year had a phenomenal 4-week performance in which the Texans were averaging 40.5 points until he unfortunately tore his ACL. And yet he comes back. The first drive they have, they turn the ball over, a fumble. New England recovers, and Tom Brady is able to convert that into a touchdown to the left pylon to Rob Gronkowski. Thank you, Rob.
Yes.
Got me some
Rob Gronkowski killing it still. I remember when last